Okay, so this is my Unreal project for the assignment for triggers. We needed 5 triggers, so I have that along with tutorial text to guide us through what to do at each station. I tried to experiment with a few different concepts as I was going through, so let's get right into it. So first, as we play through this, we have text here that says what you need to do and what the controls are. So if we see this as WASD, means move, and then if we press 1, we get a 0 up in the corner, which will be our number of keys, which will come into effect later. This is actually also a trigger box, so that's another way that I incorporate triggers into this assignment. Over here, just basic watch your step, trigger box to trigger a matinee to drop that shelf. Over here at this one, we have a press E to interact with this box, and it will turn off the lamppost and also the lights that are on these buildings. So if I turn that back on, you see purple lights, one light there, and then the red light here. And this can toggle infinitely, so that's the thing. Over here we have our elevator. It tells you to press E to interact with the buttons to make it go up and down. These are two separate triggers actually, and this is a matinee as well, which makes it either play in forward or reverse. Then over here is our lock and key and door. So it opens automatically if you have a key, which we do not, and if we check our inventory we can tell we have 0 keys. So how we fix this is walk over to this. This is our key here, and as soon as you walk near within this red line, we pick it up. And now if we check our inventory, we now have 1 key in our inventory. And then as soon as we get within the trigger box of the door, it then allows it to open. And now we are missing that 1 key from our inventory, so it actually subtracts it to use as well. Okay, that's the main triggers that I used, and here's how I did them. So going over to our blueprints, we have quite a few. First one I will do is the light switch. So what we ended up doing was we made an interaction event here that begins on pressing E while the player is overlapping with in the collision trigger area. And we put that through a gate that says, hey, cast this to our custom toggle light action that we made from our blueprint of our light switch. And then here is our blueprint that we made for our light switch to make this work, which was a custom event for light toggle that is an array, so we can tie as many lights into it as we want. And then it puts it through into a loop to toggle its visibility. So it's still going, it's just you don't see, the player doesn't see it. So it just inhibits what they can and can't see to give it the effect that it is actually changing. Alright, so then the next one we have here is our bookshelf animation, which this was pretty simple. This was just, hey, as soon as the character overlaps with the trigger box, we play our matinee, which then caused it to drop. Pretty simple, straightforward. That was a test one that I did to get this all working. Next one, our last matinee that we did, was kind of a combination of the both, because this we needed the press a key to interact with. So we used that same gate system that we used before for our light switch, and then I just have it play the matinee. But then I had to make another part of this code that was the same thing but in reverse so that you can get back down. And these are two separate triggers. Just I put them in the same thing because it is all the elevator. But these are two separate triggers casting to the two different buttons that we have. So that's how that one works. Now for our signs. So this one is actually on the HUD. So it actually displays to the player in game. It's not just a text tool for debugging or anything like that. So what we ended up doing, we had event actor being overlapped with our set for our text string here to be cast to the first person HUD, and then we have one that's set for nothing, so that's when we end overlapping, so it actually stops. And we needed to get the player control for the HUD to know where the object is being cast to. And then we sent that to draw text to screen from our text, which over here is actually a string, which we made that, which then just basically spits out whatever we put in this set box up top here. So what I did for them around the level, I actually just copied the blueprint and then just modified this text value, which changed the in-game text that you see on screen. Also, the other portion of this was in our first person HUD, I'm pretty sure. So I think I gotta go get that value, yeah. So if you look at our first person HUD blueprint, what we actually did here was we just took the event receive draw HUD and we added a sequencer to it so that it still draws the crosshairs, but also it will then send our draw text to screen custom event that we made for our text to be displayed, and we sent that through a branched gate that draws the text to screen. And we just use this to get our coordinates for where the text actually displays and the modifying of where it is and stuff. And I actually imported text for this from an outside source. So if we go back to our main thing right over here, DeBoss New Regular, that was actually a font I imported for this to work. Any font will work, it's just that was the one I used. Then if we go over to the door, for our door, this was a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to start with our inventory system that we ended up doing. So for this, it was basically set a print string in our character, first-person character code that says whenever we press 1 on the keypad, it prints a text string of our value here that is number of keys, and it converts our integer into a string. Is basically it. So that way we get our number to display in code. Which I'm thinking of changing this eventually to implement into the HUD system with something that's static on screen all the time and modifies and updates as you do stuff. So we'll see if I get a chance to do that later. But for right now, this is what it is. So that's our inventory system that we made. Then when we went over to blueprint keys over here, this interacts with our integer of number of keys as well. So we have on overlap with the first person character, we're going to do two things here. So first one is we're going to set our number of keys with our first person as the target, and our number of keys integer is going to go up by 1. And that goes there. And then after it finishes this, for increasing our keys, it's going to then destroy the actor, so that it seems as if we picked up the item. Then when we go over to our blueprint here for our door, we're going to, when we overlap the box, the trigger box, with our character, it's going to branch and have a true-false condition. Our false just stops it, so that does nothing. But as the first-person character, it's going to check our number of keys and ask, do we have greater than or equal to the amount of keys set on the door for it to open? So you actually set that through its settings over here on the side, and its default required number of keys, it needs 1. So we could actually change this and make it 2, 3, 5, however many we need. But we can actually change it there. And when we go back here, it's going to take this, and whatever its condition is, it's also going to subtract that value from the number of keys in our inventory. So that's going to do that, and then after it does that, it then goes to our timeline and starts our lerp for changing the placement of the door, and it's going to transition slowly upward, is how we set this. So then it's going to set its new coordinate to go up to open the door. Then that was everything, I believe. So our elevator, our door, which was lock and key, our toggleable lights, which was an array, so that's all 4 of these lights are tied to the same thing, which you actually can specify over here and tie more in from our default light array over here and modify them. And then all of our tutorial signs that actually spit out text straight to the HUD. All of those are triggers as well. So that's 5 or 6 different signs for triggers. The light post, which was another one. The 2 triggers for the elevator, the one for the door, the one for picking up the key, and then the one for interacting with the shelf. And that's everything as of right now.